Hey guys, what's up? June is Migraine and Headache Awareness Month, so I thought that I would take this opportunity to talk to you about some misconceptions that I had about migraine before I got thrust into this world, some misconceptions I had about headache in general, misconceptions I had about service dogs and migraine service dogs and whether or not they even existed, and how all of these misconceptions shaped how I viewed myself when I came down with migraine disease, and how recognizing the misconceptions that I had within myself helped me empathize with other people who have been having the same misconceptions about me now. All right, gonna start with more water. Let's start with migraine. It's more than just a headache. I don't want to get into everything that migraine is right now because that's sort of my whole channel. I'm not going to get into what migraine is right now because that's sort of the point of my whole channel. If you're curious about migraine, I have a migraine playlist. If you want to see footage of me having complex migraines, I have a Migraine Gen playlist. That's a compilation of different videos that show me in my confused state. Point being, if you've watched a good number of videos on my channel, you should know that migraine is much more than just a headache, and it's much more than just the attack phase that we all know about. That's only phase 3 of 4. Before I developed chronic migraine, I did have episodic migraine. Really classic episodic migraine. Migraine runs in my family, and I started getting migraines too, so I thought I understood what migraine was, and I was completely wrong. Even when I had the disease, I didn't know how many different forms it came in. Do I blame myself for that? No. Do I feel guilty about it? Of course not. But my lack of understanding of the disease made it so that when I developed the disease, I had trouble embracing it. I had trouble understanding it. I had trouble conveying it to other people because they all had the same misconceptions that I did. And it really made me downplay how serious chronic migraine really was. Other people not recognizing the other phases of migraine made me feel like I just had to suppress that they were even happening. That's not how people who are sick should feel. And my doctors didn't seem to want to get to the bottom of it. They just wanted to band-aid it with pills. And the pills only made things worse. So when somebody says that they get migraines or that they have chronic migraine, that's not enough to draw any conclusions about their life, how they live, what they're capable of, or what their level of disability is. A quick note on headaches and headache disorders. June is Migraine and Headache Awareness Month. Migraine is separated from headache because migraine is more than just a headache, but headache is included in Headache Awareness Month because there are tons of headache disorders that are totally not recognized by the general public, including myself before I entered the world of chronic migraine, which then opened me up to the world of other headache disorders. The example I would like to use is cluster headaches. I had heard about cluster headaches back when I was an episodic migraine patient. When you hear the word cluster headaches, you're like, oh, it's a person who gets headaches in clusters. But a quick Google search of cluster headaches will show you that cluster headaches are freaking gnarly, man. And the people who suffer from them are totally freaking normal passing when they're not going through their clusters. I don't know what the clusters are called. I don't want to offend anybody by not knowing proper terms here, but I have a friend who has cluster headaches and he's a totally normal freaking dude, and then once a year he's just totally disabled for a while. Is that what you've always imagined when you imagine someone who has cluster headaches? Because that's absolutely not what I thought cluster headaches were like. And that's only one example of a headache disorder. And just like my point on migraines, these misconceptions about headaches, or is it even a misconception? It's just people being naive, ignorant, not exposed to these kinds of things. So I draw the same conclusion. Just the name doesn't tell you what the person is going through. So then my migraines started getting really serious. Really, really serious. And my dog started alerting me to the migraines, and he started giving me this invaluable information that a migraine was going to come. And I thought, oh wow, a migraine service dog. Wouldn't that be crazy if they existed? They do exist. I just had misconceptions about service dogs. I had misconceptions about disability. I didn't know that people who got migraine or chronic migraine could also be disabled. You know, I didn't know migraine could count as a disability if it disabled you. I didn't know that you didn't need to have a particular diagnosis in order to be protected by the ADA. There are certain things that are obvious, like if you're blind. Yes, the ADA protects you if you would like to have a trained guide dog. But people like me, are people like me protected? I'm normal. I'm healthy. I'm able-bodied. I'm all this stuff. Well, back then, this is before all the POTS and everything. This is when I was just getting migraines like 20 days a month. Do I really deserve to have a service dog? Am I really protected to have a service dog if most of the time I'm normal? If it's just migraine. And these misconceptions about migraine and service dog and what counts, and I'm using all these air quotes and it's totally embarrassing, but words have meanings, and these misconceptions made it so that I wasn't treating myself the ways that I deserved to be treated. I wasn't advocating for myself in the ways that I needed to be advocating for myself. It took me a really long time to learn that. When Buddy first officially became my service dog, and I use the word officially loosely because there's no registration where I live, so I don't mean when he became certified or registered or graduated or anything like that, but when Buddy officially became what I considered public access trained, I did not decide to bring him to work. As you guys know, I was working in biochemistry. It was a BSL level 2, BSL level 3 lab. I was working with heavily antibiotic resistant bacteria. I was working with airborne bugs. There's a car. There's a loud car. I didn't think the benefit of having Buddy would outweigh the risk to him and my family and bringing these things back home with me. Was that a normal sentence? It's kind of strange looking back. At that point, I knew that I was protected by the ADA, but I didn't feel confident enough about it to feel like I could argue for my rights or to feel like I could bring Buddy places with complete confidence. I don't know, something just wasn't sitting right when I was trying to convince myself in my head that you can have a migraine service dog. And since I didn't make the choice to bring him to work, or it never would have been the choice for me to bring him to work even if they allowed it completely. How the heck do I say this? I'm getting a migraine. I'm getting confused. What I'm trying to say is that I think things would have gone differently if I thought that Buddy would be useful to bring to work, but either way I was going to decide to not bring him to work. But I do wonder in my head how much of that was because I didn't think that he would be taken seriously as a service dog. You know, the days that I'm not in the lab, the days that I'm not at the bench, I probably could have had him at work no problem, but I didn't. Because of fear of how my company would react, because of fear of how people would view me on the days that I didn't bring my service dog, like they would think that it was just to bring my dog sometimes. I don't know, I didn't know what people would think, but I wasn't one of those classic guide dog epilepsy diabetes cases, so maybe I felt like I wasn't worthy. There was a certain point in my migraine journey where I went from migraine gen levels of disabled, where I could still walk and talk, but I was super super slow and confused. We're declining quick. Buddy did already give me both of my migraine alerts, so I am completely expecting to be downhill like an hour ago, but then I put it off with Ginger, and now we're declining anyway. Oh my gosh, and now I'm overheating. What was I saying? I'm gonna get this thought out before I lose it. That level of function, I could sometimes get along in the lab, but then I started getting paralyzed. Once I started getting paralyzed, that was like game over. I definitely need a service dog, and nobody can say anything about it anymore. Because now I can be like, this is a migraine alert dog, but I go paralyzed during my migraines, so I need advanced warning. Me saying migraine is more than just a headache. Migraine comes with other neurological problems. Was not landing for people. That was part of why I started my YouTube channel. That was part of why, I guess that's almost all of why I bothered to put Migraine Gen out on the internet. Folks, that is so embarrassing to put out there as a former scientist, to be like, oh yeah, watch me totally fail every cognitive test. Watch me fail to cook taco meat because I got confused or whatever. That's so embarrassing to put out there, and everybody's been super nice about it. And I know it's helping a lot of people, but when I was just trying to describe that to people, they still didn't get why I needed Buddy so badly to be with me. Once I started getting paralyzed, I got to be like, yeah, he's a migraine alert dog, but I get paralyzed. So now it's important, right? Now I'm disabled enough to have a service dog even though it's just for migraines, right? It's like so wrong. So wrong to feel. On top of that, guys, the service dog community online can be a bit unfriendly. There's a good amount of fake spotting. There are people who will judge you for being disabled online and for showing your disability online because they think that it's for attention or because it seems cool or just because you want to have your dog with you. People think that you exaggerate your disability for the sake of likes and views or so that you don't have to have a job. And that kind of negative and judgy environment was not one that I was eager to be a part of. That wasn't a community that I was super excited to jump into and embrace. But then I had the thought to Google search, do migraine service dogs exist? And the Service Dog Academy showed up in the Google search results. Last month we launched a fundraiser for the Service Dog Academy, and that's still going on in the Study H shop. I'll throw a link down below if you guys haven't gotten your stickers, notebooks. Well, you should just go look. They're cute little cartoons of Buddy and I, and all of the profits go towards supporting the Service Dog Academy. They had absolutely nothing to do with me and Buddy and our training or anything like that, but they're one of the very few dog training academies that is super open about the fact that they do migraine dogs and they do dysautonomia dogs, POTS dogs, rare disease dogs. So although I haven't worked with them directly other than for this fundraiser, they did mean a lot to me in my own service dog journey. They helped me take myself seriously. Even after that Utah trip that I talk about all the freaking time, I still was not totally convinced that I deserved to have a service dog or that I was disabled enough to have a service dog. The reason being that I was able to go on hikes. Buddy was the only reason that I was able to go on the hikes. I literally couldn't have been able to do it without him. Couldn't have been able to do it without him. Wow. That felt wrong coming out, but I think I said it right. Despite knowing that he was the only reason I could do it, I still didn't feel like I deserved him just because I could. I was questioning myself a lot on that trip because every time I told someone that he was a migraine alert dog, I would get a very weird look. There are a lot of fake service dogs at national parks. People bring their pet dogs. You can't leave your pet dog in your RV or your tent all day, so people put a little vest on them and take them on hikes and say that they're a service dog. I would never do that. That's very wrong, it's very illegal, and it's very immoral. So when rangers asked me the 2 questions that they're allowed to ask, and I was all confident, yes, he's a service dog, yes, he's my migraine alert dog, and I get complex migraines, and I really need him, I would get this look. And this look would undermine my confidence. And looking back, in hindsight, I'm realizing that it was undermining my confidence because they were having the same preconceived notions about migraine, and about service dogs, and maybe about headaches, that I had before I got forced into the world of these things. They probably have exactly the same preconceived notions that I did. And unfortunately, as a service dog handler who's constantly getting harassed, constantly getting asked the questions, and we were probably going to 4 or 5 places a day where people are asking about the service dog, it got to a point where I couldn't keep educating people about migraine. So I started saying that he's a medical alert dog. My answer had to change from migraine alert dog to medical alert dog. Suddenly people started taking him seriously. Suddenly I stopped getting those weird looks. Suddenly there wasn't this look of questioning or confusion when I was confident about me having a service dog. One little tiny word change. I realize that this is a long story with maybe not a huge heavy punch, but I hope that the accumulation of all of this information makes you realize how weird of a world this is that I'm in. Even though I could vouch for myself, for my level of disability, and for the level of Buddy's training, I could legally prove that I'm protected by the ADA. I could demonstrate that Buddy can do all of the things that he needs to do to be a service dog. It still just didn't feel right that I had to go around hiding the fact that he was a migraine dog. I didn't like that changing to the word medical alert dog made people think that, oh, maybe I'm having seizures or maybe I have diabetes, or I guess I'm saying it felt deceptive even though it wasn't, because I felt like it was giving them a false impression of what was wrong with me, and that wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to tell them, this is my migraine dog. I want to be able to say that confidently. I don't want people to question it when I do that, but that's not the world that we live in, and that's what I want to get out there for Migraine and Headache Awareness Month this month. The stigma around these diseases goes deeper than just needing funding, needing research, needing people to be kinder to each other. This goes deeper than that, and there are consequences to these thoughts that go, I mean, they snowball. They snowball into me questioning my own disability. They snowball into other people questioning my service dog. So yeah, I've been talking for like 30 straight minutes. I don't know how much of it made sense or how much of it's gonna be in the video, but I already have a lot of footage to go through, so I'm gonna cut it off here. I hope this opens some eyes about migraine, the stigma around migraine and headaches, and the stigma around migraine dogs. There is some discrimination against migraine dogs, and there's discrimination against some other types of service dogs too. And there's discrimination around an infinite number of other things that we all can't understand about each other because we're not in each other's shoes. I'm only an individual. I can only speak for myself. I'm not speaking for the masses, but this has been my experience. I really appreciate you guys hearing me out. See you next week.